The old chessboard was dusty, the pieces worn down by time. But the story hidden inside it was powerful enough to change a life forever. On a quiet winter evening, a young boy named Ion sat across from an old man in a nearly empty park. The boy thought he was about to play an ordinary game of chess. What he didn't know was that this single game would reveal a secret about life, loss, courage, and destiny. A secret that would stay with him forever. And by the time the last piece moved, Ion would understand something most people spend their entire lives trying to learn. Ion was 13 years old, quiet, thoughtful, and often lost in his own mind. Life had not been very kind to him. His father had passed away 2 years earlier, leaving his mother struggling to support them. They lived in a small apartment near the edge of the city, where the noise of traffic and the weight of everyday worries filled the air. Ion rarely smiled anymore. School felt meaningless, and the world seemed unfair. Every day he walked home through the same park, cutting through the cold wind and watching other children laugh and play, wondering why happiness seemed so far away. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the trees, Ion noticed something unusual. An old man was sitting at a stone table with a chessboard placed carefully in front of him. The man's hair was silver, his coat old but neatly pressed, and his eyes carried a quiet wisdom that felt both warm and mysterious. The chess pieces were arranged perfectly, as if waiting for someone. The old man looked up and smiled gently. "Would you like to play?" Ion hesitated. He knew the basics of chess. His father had taught him years ago. In fact, those evenings playing chess with his father were some of the few happy memories he still carried. Something about the board in front of him felt strangely familiar as he sat down. The old man moved the first pawn forward. The game began slowly. Ion focused carefully, calculating moves the way his father had once taught him. For a while, neither of them spoke. Only the soft clicking of chess pieces broke the silence. Then the old man said quietly, "Do you know why chess is like life?" Ion shrugged without looking up. "Because," the old man continued, moving a knight, "every piece matters, but none of them know the whole game." Ion frowned slightly, but continued playing. The old man was good. Very good. Every move felt like a trap waiting to close. As the game progressed, Ion began to lose pieces. First a pawn, then a bishop, then his rook. Frustration built inside him. "This is unfair," Ion muttered. "I'm losing." The old man leaned back calmly. "Losing pieces does not mean losing the game." Ion stared at the board. His king was exposed, his options limited. He felt the same heavy feeling he carried in life. That sense of being cornered by circumstances he couldn't control. "My father used to say that," Ion whispered suddenly. "When we played." The old man's eyes softened. "And where is your father now?" he asked gently. Ion's voice cracked slightly. "He died." The old man nodded slowly, as if he already understood the pain behind those words. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then the old man pushed a pawn forward. "Your father taught you chess," he said. "But he also tried to teach you something much bigger." Ion looked up. "What do you mean?" The old man smiled faintly. "Life is not about protecting every piece. Sometimes you must lose something to protect what truly matters." Ion studied the board again. Suddenly, he noticed something he hadn't seen before. The old man had left an opening. A risky move could change everything, but it meant sacrificing his queen. Ion hesitated. The queen was his strongest piece. Losing it felt like giving up the game entirely. "Sometimes," the old man said quietly, as if reading his thoughts, "the strongest move looks like a mistake." Ion took a deep breath. Then he moved his queen. The old man's eyebrows lifted slightly. The trap worked. Ion captured 2 pieces and forced the game into a completely new position. For the first time, the balance shifted. Move by move, Ion began to recover. His heart raced as the game tightened. He started seeing patterns, possibilities, strategies his father had once explained to him long ago. But then something strange happened. Just when Ion was about to checkmate, he looked up to say something, and the old man was gone. The chair across from him was empty. The chessboard remained exactly as it was, the pieces frozen in the middle of the final move. Ion looked around the park in confusion. No one was nearby. Then he noticed something lying beside the board, a small folded piece of paper. His hands trembled slightly as he opened it. Inside were only a few words, written in careful handwriting. Finish the game, the way your father taught you. Ion stared at the message, his mind spinning with questions. Who was this man? How did he know about his father? The cold wind rustled the trees above him. And suddenly Ion realized something even stranger. The handwriting looked familiar, very familiar, almost exactly like his father's. The next day, Ion returned to the park earlier than usual. The chessboard was still there, sitting on the stone table as if it had been waiting for him all night. The pieces remained exactly where they had been when the old man disappeared. For a moment, Ion wondered if everything had been a dream. But the note was still in his pocket, folded carefully like a fragile memory. He sat down slowly and stared at the board. The game was unfinished. His father had always said something during their chess matches when Ion got frustrated. Life isn't about winning quickly, he used to say. It's about learning how to keep playing. Ion looked around the park again, hoping the old man would appear, but no one came. Days passed. Ion returned every afternoon. Sometimes he played against himself, continuing the unfinished game. Other times he simply sat there, thinking about the strange conversation and the lessons hidden inside it. Gradually, something inside him began to change that he started seeing life differently. School problems, arguments with classmates, struggles at home, they all felt like moves in a larger game. Not every loss meant defeat. Not every setback meant the end. Point. One evening, nearly 2 weeks later, Ion was studying the board again when a small voice interrupted his thoughts. Are you good at chess? Ion looked up that a younger boy stood nearby, holding a backpack that looked almost too heavy for him. I'm learning, Ion replied. The boy sat down eagerly. Can you teach me? For a moment, Ion hesitated. Teaching someone else felt strange. He was used to being the one who needed guidance. But then he remembered the old man's calm voice. Every piece matters. Okay, Ion said. Smiling faintly, he began explaining how each piece moved. The boy listened with bright curiosity, asking questions and laughing whenever he made mistakes. Something warm filled Ion's chest. For the first time in years, he felt useful. Day after day, more children started joining them in the park. Ion showed them strategies, told them stories about clever moves, and taught them how to think ahead. Soon the stone chess table became a small gathering place. Laughter replaced silence. Point. One afternoon, as the sun dipped behind the trees just like it had the night he met the mysterious old man, Ion noticed something carved faintly into the wooden edge of the chessboard. Words he had never seen before. He leaned closer. The carving read, "The best players are not the ones who win, but the ones who teach others how to keep playing." Ion's heart skipped. He knew those words. They were exactly the kind of thing his father used to say. In that moment, something became clear. Maybe the old man had been real. Maybe he hadn't. But the lesson was real. Life would always be unpredictable. Pieces would be lost. Plans would fail. Pain would come without warning. But the game could always continue as long as you were brave enough to make the next move. Ion looked at the children around the table, their eyes focused on the board, their laughter echoing through the park, and quietly, with a calm confidence he had never felt before, he moved a pawn forward, because sometimes the smallest move is the one that changes everything.